And the Lord said unto Abram, after that Lot was separated from him, lift up now thine eyes, look upward, and look from the place where thou art, northward and southward and eastward and westward. For all the land which thou seest, to thee I will give it, and to thy seed forever. And I will make thy seed as the dust of the earth, so that if a man can number the dust of the earth, then shall all thy seed be numbered. Arise, walk through the land in the length of it and the breadth of it, for I will give it unto thee. In the cathedral at Chartres, I can't say that properly because my French is non-existent. So a cathedral is a cross, and the transformation takes place at the crux of the cross, which is exactly right, because the transformation takes place at the point of maximal suffering. And the cathedral is designed to indicate that, right, symbolically. Now, what happens in a religious ceremony is also a journey, and it's a journey in some sense to the holy city. And then that's also played out in the idea of pilgrimage, right? Because you go to the holy city. Actually, you go to Jerusalem or wherever it is that you think the holy city is. You go there, and that takes you out of your country and away from your kin and away from your family into the strange land. And as you make the journey, you transform. And when you come back, you're not the same. That's the Hobbit, right? That's the story of the Hobbit. But let's say you can't afford to go on a pilgrimage. So you go to the cathedral at Chartres, and there's a huge maze on the ground. And it's the world, north, west, south, and east, just as God describes here. So it's laid out. And you enter the maze at one side, and in the middle is a stone pattern that looks like a flower. And it's the place where being wells forth, and it's at the center of the cathedral. And what that means is that if you accept your suffering, then you move to the place where the spirit of being wells forth. That's what that means. And so you enter the maze, and you walk, and it's divided into quadrants. And you walk one quadrant completely, and then the maze pathway takes you into the next quadrant, and you walk that completely, and then it takes you to the third one and the fourth one. And then when you walk the maze completely, everywhere, when you've gone everywhere in the world, north, south, east, and west, when you've traversed the territory completely, then you come to the center, and then it's yours. And that's what this is. So I've noticed when I've been renovating houses, I like to do that. I paid a lot of attention to the psychological process of house renovation. Because I learned from Jung that, Jung said this is something, man. He said, because he was talking about the stages of integration, psychological integration, and he looked beyond Piaget, I would say. Although Piaget looked very far, he said, here's a conjunction. You have to get your rationality and your emotion together. That's a male-female conjunction, symbolically speaking. Male rationality, female emotionality. You want to bring those together so that they're oriented in the same direction. Your emotions and your rationality serve the same purpose. So then you're unified in mind and spirit, let's say. But that's not good enough. Once you've got that together, then you have a body, and then that's a male-female conjunction again, a divine conjunction. The recreation of Adam before his division into female and male, and the reconstruction of the androgynous Christ. All those ideas are linked together. So now you have your emotion and your rationality moving in the same direction, but you're not acting it out. So now you have to unite that abstract part of you with your body and start acting out what you think and feel. And that's the next conjunction, but it's not the last one. The last conjunction is when you realize that there is no distinction between you and your experience. They're the same thing. And so then when you put together your house, you're putting together yourself. So I've noticed when I've lived in places, rented or owned, didn't matter, that if there was a part of the place that I hadn't attended to, whatever that might mean, it might have meant cleaned, it might have meant fixed, but it certainly meant at least thoroughly investigated, then that was chaos. It was like the desert, that part. That's a way of thinking about it. It wasn't mine, even if I owned it. It wasn't mine. I had to interact with it before it became mine. And I had to interact with it, and I had to put it in order, and then it became mine. And then to the degree that it became mine and was in order, then I was also put in order. Now you know that because you go into places that make you uncomfortable. And maybe it's your own house. It's highly probable. It's highly probable. I walk into, well, Chinese doctors do this, traditional Chinese doctors. They go into people's place and they diagnose their health conditions on the balance of yin and yang, chaos and order. They walk into a house. This is easy to do. You walk into a house, there's too much chaos. Hey, you can detect that in no time flat. Everything is out of order and chaotic. You don't even want to be there. You certainly don't want to open the refrigerator. That's for sure. And there are things that should have been done years ago everywhere. And every one of those things is a fight that hasn't happened and something that's being avoided. And you can't even walk in there and maintain your health. As soon as you walk in there, you're sicker than you were when you were outside. And that's one sort of place. And then another sort of place is you go in and you look at the living room, and the person has vacuumed the living room rug, and the lines that were vacuumed are parallel to one another. And the furniture is covered with plastic. And you get a glass of water, and then just as you're going to set it down on the coffee table, the person rushes over and puts a coaster underneath it. And everything in that house says to you that it would be a lot more perfect in that house if you were either not there or dead. And that's the message that the whole house is blasting at you. And if you happen to live there, then you're going to be sick. And what you're going to be sick from is too much order. And in the other house, you're going to be sick from too much chaos. And so, when you interact with a house, the unexplored parts are the chaos the parts that you have not yet contended with are the chaos that has not yet been transformed by your embodied logos action into habitable territory. And it does not belong to you.